Hello, Jamie Trull here, your favorite CPA and financial literacy coach. And in today's video, I am going to be talking all about COVID relief and specifically giving you updates for 2022. So I know that COVID really was hitting us hard in 2020 and 2021, but for a lot of people, they still have questions about, first of all, what do they need to be doing with regards to the COVID relief that they perhaps received, right? Or maybe you're wondering if there's anything still left available. And the answer to that is yes, and we're going to get to that. So I'm going to talk about 3 of the main COVID relief programs for small business owners here today, and we're going to talk about where each one of them stands. I'm recording this as of the end of July 2022. This should stand for the rest of 2022 and beyond into 2023. So I'm going to give you kind of the lay of the land of where we are at now and where we're going in the future. So we're going to be talking about the Paycheck Protection Program, i.e. the Ppp Loans, and where they stand in 2022. We're going to be talking about the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, i.e. the EIDL that was given for COVID-19 relief purposes. And we are going to be talking about the Employee Retention Tax Credit. And just as kind of a quick spoiler alert, that's the one that is still available that you can still get now. So we're going to talk about that one last. We're going to get to that, but I do want to talk about PPP and EIDL. Both of those are closed for COVID relief. Now, the EIDL is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That's an SBA loan that was given out. That one is still available, perhaps if you're in another disaster area, right? That wasn't just specific for COVID, but in general, the COVID EIDL loans are closed. They are no longer giving those, even if you were trying to get a second draw. In general, that is done at this point in time, and we don't expect it to be coming back for COVID purposes. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit more about what you need to do if you do have an EIDL loan and you're trying to make a plan to pay it off and you're trying to figure out when you have to start paying it off here in just a minute. But first, I want to talk about PPP. So this was probably the most popular of all the COVID relief options for small business owners and self-employed individuals. I know a ton of businesses that received 1 or 2 Paycheck Protection Program loans. Now, based on the data, it looks like the vast majority of people have already submitted their loans for forgiveness, and the vast majority of those people who have submitted have gotten full forgiveness on their loans. Okay, so if you have not yet gone through that process, it is not too late, even if you have exceeded that 10-month time frame. So remember that 10 months from the end of your covered period, meaning the end of the time frame that you used PPP over, which could be as little as 10 weeks, as much as 24 weeks, okay? At the end of that time frame, you have 10 months before they will begin to ultimately be requiring repayment back from you. Now, even if you've started to pay on those PPP loans, or perhaps you've started to get bills that you need to pay those PPP loans because that time frame is up, perhaps if you got your loan really at any time in 2020 or the beginning of 2021, you likely are in a place where your 10 months is up or close to it at this point in time. So even if you haven't submitted for forgiveness, you still can. Even if you started making payments on that loan, the forgiveness period doesn't go away, okay? The 10 months was not to actually apply for forgiveness. The 10 months was to apply for forgiveness before you had to start making payments. You can still apply now if you haven't yet. I do highly recommend applying. Again, most of the time, if you got this money from a good faith perspective, it's going to be fully, or at least mostly fully, able to be forgiven. Now, there are some situations in which maybe your loan was incorrectly calculated, things like that, which is unfortunate. So sometimes people are not being fully forgiven. But again, the smaller loans, at least, even if they were miscalculated, are probably going to be fully forgiven based on some of the changes that they have made to the guidance and to the forgiveness process. So if you haven't done it, make sure to go check with your bank that you originally got your loan from. You can also now apply for loan forgiveness directly through the SBA. So don't let that one, don't forget about it. Don't forget it exists. It's super easy to get forgiveness. I'm going to show you some of the stats just real quick here, just to prove my point about PPP. So real quick on the screen, you can see some of the stats about PPP loans, which I find really interesting. These are the most updated as of July when I'm recording this. And you can see that ultimately, this is the total count of loans, right? There were about 11 million loans, $787 billion worth of loans under the PPP program were given out. 91% of PPP loans have submitted forgiveness applications, and that ultimately represents 95% of the total balance of those loans. Of that, here are the forgiveness stats. 95% of total PPP loan value has been forgiven in full or in part. So you can see that the vast majority of PPP loans are getting forgiven. Now, who do I worry about here? I worry about those smaller lenders. People who have big PPP loans, they're not forgetting about the forgiveness part. But there is some misinformation. Some people think that for loans under $50,000, that you actually don't have to take action, that those are automatically forgiven, and that is not the case. You do still have to do a forgiveness application. So importantly, I want to make sure you see what I'm talking about. When you come down here under the number of submissions by loan amount, these that are less than $50,000, we can see that's where the biggest gap is, right? The people with $2 million loans are not forgetting to apply for forgiveness, but there is a gap between the submissions and the total loans given to those under $50,000. So 10% of those people still have not applied for forgiveness. So I want to shout it from the rooftops. Don't forget to apply for forgiveness. Don't think that anything is automatically done. You do need to apply. Otherwise, you're going to be expected to pay. And I don't want anybody getting into trouble because they didn't apply for forgiveness, which should be extremely easy to receive. Okay, so now let's move on and let's talk about another super popular COVID-19 relief for small businesses. And we're talking about the EIDL loan, okay? So EIDL loans were something that those are emergency disaster loans, and they are true loans. Now, I want to distinguish this really quickly between the EIDL grants and the EIDL loans. The EIDL grants were typically anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000. Those were grants. Those do not need to be repaid in any form or fashion, okay? So if you did not actually sign any kind of loan documents or anything like that, more than likely you got an EIDL grant. Now, if you received an actual loan, i.e. you signed loan documents and you have an EIDL loan, then you are going to need to pay that back. It is an actual loan. It does have interest. And right now, payments are now deferred 30 months for all loans. So that has changed over time. It was 12 months, then 18 months, then 24 months. Now it's 30 months for all loans. No matter when you got the EIDL loan, if it was related to COVID, you have a 30-month deferral of payments. But remember, interest is still accruing, okay? Now, what do you do if you haven't heard anything, if you're not sure where to even see the balance of this loan, you don't want to forget about it, right? Then I want you to make sure that you set up an account at the address I have on the screen. It's caweb.sba.gov. Okay, that is different from the application portal. This portal is the SBA Capital Access Financial System. All right, this is where you're gonna be able to see the balance of your loan. You're gonna be able to see your loan number. All the information about your loan will be in this system. You should be able to see the interest as well associated with your loan. So make sure that you have signed up for an account. I'm gonna put the information on how to sign up for an account there down below so that you can easily do that. Okay, so check the show notes for that information. If you wanna make a payment on your SBA loan, remember, even though payments are deferred 30 months, right, interest is accruing. And so what that means is if you did wait 30 years, which is the term of the loan, to repay your loan, you're gonna have a big balloon payment due at the end that basically relates to this deferral period, okay? So if you want to go ahead and make a payment towards your loan, you absolutely can do that. It can help you reduce the total interest that you will have over the life of your loan if you do that and if you have the cash flow to be able to do that. Now, you cannot make a payment, however, through that CAWeb site. Where you will make a payment instead is going to be through pay.gov. Now, the two systems don't really talk to each other, so pay.gov doesn't know your balance, so you're gonna have to have an actual account set up so you can see your balance, right, so that you can make a payment over on pay.gov. You can pay any amount you want to. It will go to interest first before principal. That's generally how these are going to work. So just as an FYI. And if you want to see what the impact will be over being able to repay additional amounts of your loan, right? If you want to see what the interest accrued is to this point, what making early payments will do, maybe if you make double payments once they start becoming due, what that will do. I have an interest calculator for this specific loan. It factors in the 30-month deferral period as well. So you can see that. You can see the impact of the balloon payment potentially at the end, okay? And you can run some different scenarios around if you made certain payments at certain times, what would that mean for your interest? If you've already started making payments, you can put those in and see how that has reduced your interest over time. So where you can grab that calculator, it's only $17, y'all, because we like to make things really affordable and easy here. You can go to jamietrull.com/stimulus resources. And there you're going to find all the resources we currently have for PPP loans, EIDL loans, and the employee retention tax credit. Okay, so you can get everything that you need over on that page. The EIDL loan calculator is only $17, so it's totally worth it to help you figure out what you want to do. And it also has a tracker so that you can track all the expenses that you are using your EIDL on, so that you have that in case you ever have to present that to the SBA, which is part of what is in the documents that you signed, that you may have to prove what you spent that money on. So it's always good to make sure that you are keeping up with that. Even if you go back, even if you haven't been doing it, go back and start documenting some of those things and make sure that they are things that are operating expenses in nature, and they are not things like capital asset investments or expansion or anything like that. Just general operating expenses that you needed to pay to keep your business running during the time period of COVID. Now, real quick, if you're still in the market for a loan for your business and you're wondering where to turn, maybe it's not necessarily for emergency purposes, you would just like to have a loan in order to use for regular business purposes or to expand your business, the SBA does still have programs for that. So even if you missed out on the EIDL, or perhaps you have long used your EIDL, I recently did a conversation with my friend, an SBA loan expert, Dustin Baker, and that content is over here on the YouTube channel as well. If you want to check out that video, please do. We talked about all the pluses and minuses of taking on SBA debt and what you're going to need if you want to qualify for it, and some of the best practices if you do take on an SBA loan. So make sure to check that out, and you can hopefully find some help for your business as well, even though the EIDL is over. Now, moving on to the third of the COVID relief packages that were available. Now we're talking about the employee retention tax credit. And this is a payroll tax credit, so it's a little bit different. And this one may or may not be my favorite. I'm not really sure. We have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with the ERTC. It is by far the most complicated. However, you can still get this. And again, I'm recording this in the middle of July 2022, but this should still be true through 2023, even into 2024, and maybe even still into 2025. And we're going to talk about why that is here in a minute. However, this is something, if you are an employer, okay, if you are an employer and you either were shut down for a period of time, or perhaps you had a large drop in gross receipts in your business due to COVID, whether that was in 2020 or in 2021, or both, okay, then you could qualify for this. And it's worth up to $26,000 per employee. Let me say that again. It's worth up to $26,000 per employee, okay? So $5,000 in the year 2020 is the max you can get per employee, or $21,000 in the year 2021 per employee. Now, this doesn't include you or anyone related to you closely, right? But this will relate to other employees, not contractors, just W-2 employees that you paid during 2020 and 2021 if you meet the requirements. Again, it's complicated. The calculation is complicated. However, it's something that you should definitely look into if you think it may impact you. You can go check out some of the other content that I've done on the ERC. I've continued to do this content because it is still something that you can get. And the reason for that is because it is a payroll tax credit. This is not something that you take on your income tax return. This is not something from the SBA. Instead, this is a payroll tax credit, meaning you're getting money back for the payroll taxes that you already paid. And it's fully refundable, meaning you can get more back than you actually even paid in payroll taxes. So that's kind of amazing, right? Now, there are some drawbacks here. I will have to tell you, there are some drawbacks. It is more complicated. You do have to file an amended 941 for each quarter that you are claiming the credit for. So that could be up to 6 quarters, okay? So you can get this basically in 2020, like I said, a max of $5,000 across all quarters, or you can get up to $7,000 per quarter for Q1, Q2, and Q3 of 2021. They used to let us do 2021 quarter 4. However, they changed that. Some of the Congressional Infrastructure Plan changed that at the end of 2021. So that is no longer available, but you can still get it through September 30th of 2021. So don't miss out on this. Again, the calculation is complicated, which is a drawback. And the other drawback is that it takes a while. So it's taking sometimes 6 months or more in order to be able to get this refund. Now, for a lot of companies though, especially if you have a lot of payroll, this could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, okay? I know someone that bought my ERTC calculator who just told me that they saved $800,000 and they bought my calculator for $27. So this is actually my most purchased product lately has been my ERTC calculator. It is super, super popular. You can find it at that same jamietrull.com/COVID resources tab, and you can see what's included in it. I spent quite a bit of time developing this, and we also have updated each and every time that guidance has changed because, you know, Congress. So we are continuing to update that. If anything does change, which we don't expect anymore, but if it does, we will send out a revised version so that everybody always has the most updated version if you have purchased the worksheet. I'm going to give you my last, and this is why I have a love-hate relationship with this credit. My last kind of caveat to at least be aware of is that when you file for this credit, let's say you're getting $100,000 back for this credit, right? Which is amazing. Remember though, you will have to go back and amend likely your tax returns if you filed them already. So if you filed your 2021 tax return at this point and you file a ERTC credit and amend your 941s for a couple of quarters of 2021, you need to go back and you can no longer deduct those expenses. So ultimately what that's going to likely do is make your profit in your business higher and therefore make your taxes higher. Now, again, if you are getting a credit of $100,000 and let's say you have an effective tax rate of 20%, that means your taxes that you have to pay are going to go up about $20,000, but you're going to get $100,000 back. So net, you're still making out really well, but it is something to keep in mind because some people aren't necessarily aware that they need to do that. So I want to make sure to point out that yes, and there could be some additional administrative cost to be able to do this. So the other big question I get with regards to this credit is how long do I have to claim it? And the answer is it doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon unless changes are made via Congress. But the reason for that is that you have the ability to amend your 941s for up to 3 years past the time when you filed your return. So for example, if you're trying to claim 2020, right, and you filed, let's say, your tax return for 2020 in April of 2021, then you would have until April of 2022, 2023, 2024, 3 years, April of 2024 to file your amended 941s. Now, this is just true in general anytime you're going to be filing amended 941s. This is not specific to the ERTC credit. However, that looks to be the standing is that yes, you will be able to file for this and claim it on these amended 941s over that time period. Now, I will give one quick thing to watch for on this, right? Because we've seen this happen with some of the other COVID stimulus funds that eventually they just kind of say, we're out of money and we're done. So is that possible in this scenario? We've seen things change quite a bit. I do not think it's impossible that the US government at some point would put a line in the sand and say, no more amending your 941s for the employee retention tax credit past a point in time. So I do recommend that you go ahead and get that in soon, okay? You will be more likely to be able to get it. You'll also get it quite a bit faster if you go ahead and get it in. You want to make sure that you are getting in that queue, right? That you are one of the people waiting in line to be able to get this. If anything does change with regards to being able to claim the credit, or there is a time frame that is put into action by the IRS for this, then we will absolutely update you. If you are someone who has purchased our calculator before, we will send you an update with that information so that you can stay up to date. So make sure to grab that calculator so that we can also continue to keep you up to date on anything that happens with changes like that. So check out all the resources. Let me know below what questions you have. What other questions do you have related to COVID relief? Are there other programs you want me to talk about and give an update on? I'm happy to do that. And let me know what your experience has been. If you've filed for the ERTC, let me know how that has gone. Have you received your money back on that or not? Update us, because it really helps to be able to see and share what everybody's experience is with these different programs, okay? Now, the last thing that I want to tell you about is I'm releasing this video right now. It is the very end of July 2022, okay? You have, depending on when you're watching this, maybe 1 or 2 days left in the contest that I'm running for July of 2022, and that is a giveaway. I'm giving away $1,000. So again, if y'all like free money, I'm not the government, but I'm going to give you some free money, potentially, if you win this contest. So we're giving away $1,000 to one person who enters this contest. The only thing that you have to do to enter our giveaway is to commit to doing something to support a small business. You get 2 entries just for that, and you can tell us what it is. That's it. That's it. But you do have to go log on to our entry form in order to get credit, jamietrull.com/giveaway. You can get additional entries into the contest for doing other free things to support our business, including subscribing to this YouTube channel that you are watching this on. Please hit the subscribe button. And signing up for our newsletter, things like that. So I'd love for you to go check that out. Again, jamietrull.com/giveaway. Somebody's getting $1,000 on August 1st. It could be you. And I will see you next time.